Happy GA Flashback Friday on Saturday. I know, I'm a day late, but as you guys know, yesterday I was not feeling well at all, and there was no, like, physically possible way for me to film a video yesterday when I couldn't even, like, stand to sit up. So I got on the page and let everybody know that it was just not going to happen and that I was going to film it today, and I'm so glad that I'm feeling better so that I can, because the rest of my weekend is absolutely chaotic, and I knew that if I did not get it done this morning, it was not going to get done at all. And then I would feel off, and it would just be a mess, and I can't deal with that. So we are going to get right into it because I have a lot to talk about in a lot of different ways, and I want to switch Flashback Friday up a little bit, and so we're going to get into it. Okay. Now, the guys this week went to the Birdcage Theater for the first time, and this took place back in 2009. Now, as always, I like to give you guys a little bit of history on where we are, so here we go. Now, the Birdcage Theater is located in Tombstone, Arizona. Now, a lot of awesome history happened in Tombstone. This is the home of the OK Corral shootout. It's just the epitome of that perfect 1830s, like, Wild West town. I love everything about it because it's just awesome. Like, I just love it. I think just the history and the stories that go along with it and the history that's just embedded in the walls, it's just, oh, it's amazing. Now, they focused on the Birdcage Theater. Now, when they went back earlier this year, they focused on a couple of other places in town, along with, like, revisiting the Birdcage Theater, but their prime location this episode was just the Birdcage Theater. Now, a little bit of history about the Birdcage. Now, people would flock to this place for so many reasons. This was a saloon. This was almost like a place for prostitution and to have a good damn time. So this was just a place that everybody could hang out at and die in, apparently. There were over 26 deaths, which included 26 men and 1 woman that were killed in the Birdcage Theater, and it was typically over, like, a card game. Are you kidding? But not surprising. I mean, what else can you fight about, like, in the 1830s? Really? Like, you can't fight about, like, a car or, you know, like, drugs weren't a big thing. So a poker game was really all you had. And that was typically what it was over. Now, speaking of poker games, the longest poker game in the history of the world was played at the Birdcage Theater. This poker game, though, it lasted 8 years, 5 months, and 3 days. Ain't nobody got time for that. This was a poker game that went on non-stop, 24/7, 365 for 8 freaking years. Who has time? No wonder people got killed. No wonder people got shot. Because when I play poker, I am done after an hour because I will kill somebody. I will shoot you after an hour. And this thing went on for 8 freaking years. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody got time to sit up and down, getting around. And it was a $1,000 buy-in. Okay, I'm not going to pay a $1,000 buy-in now. And that was then. That's like $30,000 now. You crazy. Outside your mind crazy. Ain't nobody got time for an 8-year poker game. 8 minutes, maybe. But not 8 years. No wonder people got shot. I'd be shooting people too. Sorry, I had to get on a little rant because that was just ridiculous. I heard that. I was like, are you kidding me? 8 years? Ain't nobody got time for that. No. So that was just a little fun fact. Now, that was really much all the history. As far as, like, the spirit history and the paranormal activity history, there was just your typical paranormal activity. You hear noises, and you see apparitions, and you get touched. And the thing about this is, of the environment you're in, there was, like, these, the reason it was called the Birdcage was just, there was these cages across the top of the room. And they were bird cages where prostitutes would hang out, or as they called them, soiled doves, which I thought was hysterical. I'm sorry. They're hookers. Or sluts, whatever you want to say. But for politically correct reasons, we'll say prostitutes, or in their case, soiled doves. And this is where they would do their dirty business. I loved their words for this stuff. It just made me giggle. And they would go in these cages and treat them into a good time. And so with that, you're bound to see a naked ghost, right? Well, apparently at the Birdcage you do, and Zach thought this was the greatest thing in the world. He's like, I want to film that. I want to film a butt-naked ghost. Of course you do, because you're a guy, and you're a pervert, and that's just how it is. Whatever. But I thought it was funny. I know everybody else thought it was funny too, and Zach thought it was hysterical. And so, and that was all done during the interview process, and I thought it was just funny because it's such a typical guy statement. Like, it's just such a typical guy. Like, I want to see a butt-naked ghost. Of course you do. If you have your choice of seeing a fully clothed ghost or a butt-naked ghost, a guy is going to choose the naked one every time. Doesn't matter if they're cute or not. The fact is they're naked. Perverts. But anyway, moving into lockdown. Now, like I said, lockdown breakdown, there wasn't a lot to break down. They didn't really get, like, they got some good evidence, like, that they caught on their static night vision cameras toward the end of lockdown. Like, they got a light, like this mysterious light, and they got some really good EVPs, like some card shuffling, and they got some EVPs, you know, that said, like, no, and come here, just your typical EVP statements. Zach said he seen a face on the wall. It wasn't captured, but his reaction said it all. They heard some tapping and things like that. But I really wanted to focus on something that was really prevalent in this episode that I really don't do typically because it's not really something that's usually in the forefront. But we are going to do something completely different on Flashback Friday because this episode focused a lot on trigger objects. And I thought this was a really good opportunity to talk about them because this was such a big part of this Flashback episode. So, for those of you who don't know, a trigger object is something used in a paranormal investigation that will draw the spirits because it reminds them of their time. When you are doing a paranormal investigation, especially somewhere that is got history in the 1800s, cameras, digital recorders, spirit boxes, those are all foreign to these spirits. They have no idea what they are. They weren't around then. But if you bring out, like in this case, a gun or a poker chip or a silver dollar, something that reminds them of their time when they were alive there, it's going to draw them out. It's going to bring them out. And this was the perfect episode for that. The guys took full use of trigger objects. They had guns that had blanks in them. They had whiskey. They had, you know, they had the bandanas on. They looked like they were part of a gang. They went all out to try to get these spirits to come out and play. And it worked. I mean, when you start messing with the things that they know and they understand, then you are going to fully get the experience that you want. And they did not disappoint. Zach would, you know, fire the gun and then they would hear a tap or they would get an EVP. And they sat at the poker table and they had the poker chips and they had the cards and they had the whiskey, which if I was scared, I'd be drinking that. Like they're just sitting there chilling with this like little shots of whiskey and I'm going, have one, yo. Show them you're serious. Show them it's whiskey and not water. But I understand for TV related purposes, they don't need to be getting all drunk up on the Travel Channel. But if it was like a personal investigation, I'd be all over that. Because then I wouldn't be scared. And then I wouldn't have to worry about it. I wouldn't have to worry about what I heard or be over, because you know you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof when you've got a few shots of whiskey in you, or at least in my case. Beside the point, ADD. But I wanted to do that for this week because the lockdown itself was just your typical paranormal lockdown. Like they had a lot of really good experiences. They had a lot of really good evidence. But something that stood out to me was the trigger object factor. They worked really hard to bring in all of these objects that would mean something, you know, cigars and whiskey, that would mean something to these guys to try to get them to come out and make contact with them. And it worked. They got some really good evidence and it was really active. Now, one of my favorite moments of this episode, before I wrap it up for the weekend, was at the end, poor Aaron. This was still when Aaron was bait all the time, and poor Aaron was no different this week. He was sent into the stagecoach area where there is a stagecoach there called Black Mariah, and it was actually the hearse that was used. And it basically took like a body a day to the cemetery. So it had a lot of death related to it. It had a lot of history related to it. And they sent poor Aaron in there by himself while Nick and Zach were back at one of their first times having like a nerve center. This was one of the first times that in the first 2 seasons that they had used a nerve center to kind of keep an eye on the guys from a distance. And so they sent Aaron into this stagecoach and they were taunting him, like taunting the spirits through the walkie-talkie, and they're like, this guy said that you were just a yellow belly, you didn't mean nothing to anybody, just jacking around, trying to get this spirit to make contact with Aaron. And of course, Aaron is freaking out. And so he climbs under the stagecoach, and sure enough, they're all taunting him, and he gets like his leg pulled, and Aaron freaks. It is one of my favorite moments because he just slides out. He's like, I'm out. Forget this. Forget you. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. And the guys are just laughing at him at Nerve Center because they know that he is absolutely panicked. And it was probably one of the best pieces of evidence because you know that, like, even though he didn't see anything or hear anything, just his sheer reaction, you know he felt something. Like, you cannot make that up. When you truly feel something that you're not expecting to feel, your reaction is priceless. And you can tell when it's real. And so it's one of my favorite episodes, or one of my favorite moments in the episode. Because it was just classic Aaron for the first few seasons of Ghost Adventures. Just pure and classic Aaron. So that is all I have for GA Flashback Friday. Like I said, I know it's a little different. I know it's not typically what I do, but I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I like to do that once in a while. And I just wanted to give everybody, including myself, a nice, gentle ease into the weekend while still delivering you guys a really cool video. So that's all I have for Flashback Friday. I will see you guys on Tuesday for GAQA Tuesday while we still sit and impatiently wait for a new episode of Aftershocks or a new episode of Ghost Adventures to come back on so that I can recap those for you guys on Monday. So start getting your Ghost Adventures related questions into me now, and I will see you guys Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Much love, much happiness.